Hello everyone, my name is Jake Sheldon. I am here with Dan Leibrandt. He is the owner of Pest Control SEO, a successful marketing agency for pest control owners. Appreciate you jumping on here with me today, Danny.
Absolutely.
And today we got some exciting things to talk about. We're going to be talking about paid directories, all the different platforms for pest control and which ones are the best. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Danny, I got some good questions for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first question for you, Danny, is which paid directories drive the highest quality pest control leads?
Yeah, definitely. So there are a lot of different directories out there. Just for people that maybe aren't familiar, there is Yelp, there's Angie, there's Thumbtack, there's HomeAdvisor, there's Bark, there's Porch, there's Patch. There's so many.
There's a lot of them.
I know. There's so many of those different platforms. Those are probably the top ones, at least off the top of my head. In terms of which ones drive the highest quality leads, I would say that Yelp probably has the highest quality ones. There are other platforms like Thumbtack and such. Some of those other platforms have lower quality leads because people are usually trying to look for a bargain. So they're looking between these different platforms, and they may go to a Thumbtack, and that's because they're trying to shop around. They're trying to find the lowest price, and they're going to end up talking to each of these individual companies and trying to, like, this is just kind of what I've seen in my experience with Thumbtack. Yeah. They're really trying to get a deal. They're trying to spend as little as possible. Versus with Yelp has a little bit more authority. People see it as kind of a more premium company, the same way as Google. Like, you go to people's Google business profiles, you're looking at legit companies. You know that Google is showing the best. Versus Thumbtack, not everyone's going to be on Thumbtack. It's going to be some of the smaller guys. So I would say overall, in terms of best quality leads, that would probably be Yelp.
Okay. Now, you've seen with Yelp, just a random question for me quick is, have you seen, there's a lot of complainers on Yelp? Have you seen?
There's a lot of complainers on all of these paid directories, man. So like this is kind of the problem here, and why you guys honestly don't do much with paid directories. It's honestly kind of good for you. Like, there are a lot of complainers. I don't know what it is. There might be just like some kind of archetype that is prone to using paid directories that also is kind of a complaining person, isn't really happy with talking with you or with the service. I don't know what it is, but there are like kind of some hoops you have to jump through when dealing with these paid directories as a whole, not just Yelp.
Hey guys, real quick, if you guys are really looking to grow your pest control company, check out what we do at pestcontrolmillionaires.com.
Yeah, I was just curious if you ran into that. Next question for you is, how should you select the directories based on your target demographics? Yeah, okay, that's an interesting one. So there are all these different paid directories, and really we could even go back to the really kind of the clientele that you're looking to pursue. So something like Thumbtack, and really actually I'll back up for a sec. I'll expand a little bit more on the first question. So the top 4 directories, as in the ones with the most users by far, are Yelp, HomeAdvisor, Angie, and Thumbtack. Those by far have the most users, and then they dramatically drop off with places like Bark. I heard a guy like, oh yeah, I got tons of leads from Bark. And this was like a few years ago. I was like, dude, what even is Bark? Right.
Like there are all these new paid directory platforms that come out, but those are the really the top 4. And then which ones, like, basically the question is how they compare on demographics. Again, I would say that the people with a little bit more money and might be in a little bit nicer areas will probably be on Yelp, whereas the people with a little bit less money and probably in worse areas will be on things like Thumbtack, and even the more lesser known ones like, again, House, Porch, Patch, those other ones.
Yep. Okay. Good stuff. Next one is, are general home services directories or pest-specific directories more effective?
Yeah, so what kind of directories? So there are basically no pest control directories. I've like searched extensively for this, and this is like part of my thing, regardless of if you're spending money on actual paid directories, that it's still nice to have as a citation, that like to build your entity on Google for SEO and to boost your trust and reputation, you should be setting up all of these directories. regardless of if you're actually setting them up. So I've looked at all of these, and you should be setting up industry niche relevant ones. And there really aren't any for pest control, actually. So there's technically Pest Control Approved, which is a tiny site no one uses. There's Find Pest Control. I think it's findpestcontrol.net. No one uses that.
You better make one.
Yeah. No, honestly, I was considering that. I was actually talking with the guy who owns pestcontrolnearme.com. But I don't really like how he's designed it. And so I think I'm actually going to build my own. It's just funny. I've never talked about that, but I probably will. We can even do that together. So there aren't really, like, to answer the question, it's not even really valid because there aren't any pest specific directories, but at least we could get a little bit more nuanced of, like, Yelp technically could be almost anything local or really anything like that versus a more home service platform, which might be, a Thumbtack or a House or a HomeAdvisor. It kind of depends here. I would say I usually like the leads more on the home service platforms, just like kind of generally speaking, because they don't just view it as another platform. They know what they're getting into. They know that, hey, we're getting this pest control service. Maybe they've even used House or Thumbtack before. They kind of know how it goes. Versus Yelp, they're just almost like shopping around. But there's not a clear answer there. It doesn't compare too much.
Okay. Now, next is, should you prioritize local directories over like the big national ones?
Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of just talked about it there. Well, actually, local directories could mean ones that are specific to your area. No, I don't.
Like specific to like the city.
Yeah. There are very few local directories, and they usually won't be ranking. So the ones that will be ranking are the bigger ones with a lot of authority and a lot of trust. Those small ones are still great for SEO, and we still like to set those up if there's any kind
Usually
of...
not many of them, though.
Yeah,
right?
no, there's very few. And of those few, they're like almost none of them are going to rank.
Yeah.
Because Yelp just dominates SEO. Yeah. House dominates SEO. Angie dominates SEO. So it's not even really fair to compare those.
And then the last question I have for you, Danny, is how many directories should you realistically use at once? Like, should you use all of them? Should you do, Yelp, HomeAdvisor, Angie's List, all these different ones?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would recommend going all in on one platform. So really pick one, and that might even be you talking to some of your friends. Maybe they're in industry adjacent niches like lawn care, HVAC, whatever. Kind of get a consensus from your network, because it also does depend on the area. Like you said just before the show, like you've seen someone who's really crushing on Thumbtack, or I see another guy in Florida, he's really crushing it with Yelp, or like all these different platforms. I've seen people crush it on basically every single one of these platforms, but it does really depend on the area of, like, are they even going to get used at all? Are the leads going to be quality? How many people are going to be using them? And also, how competitive will they be? So those are all things to consider. But once you make like a pretty good assumption, you talk to your network, you listen to podcasts and such like this, then you can choose one. I would really say just start with one and you can expand from there. So you might choose Yelp, you might choose Thumbtack, you might choose HomeAdvisor. There are all these different platforms. But just choose one and go all in on that one. I would recommend for 3 months. Give it 3 months, not just 1 month or 1 week, but give it a nice 3 months. The same thing I recommend for SEO or Facebook ads or Google ads. Give it 3 months and see what happens. Like, really actually try, add projects on your account, which we'll talk about in the next video. Get as many reviews as you can on there, not just Google reviews, because those play into, how well you'll rank on there and how well you'll convert on there. But overall, just choose one to start. Don't go too crazy. If you're a bigger company, then maybe you have the resources, as in the finances and really the human capital to pursue these different directories. But it takes a lot of time to set each one up and to reply to all the leads from them. Like, you have to sort through all of them. So I'd really just recommend one to start, especially companies doing under $1 million a year.
Yep. I'm glad you said that, because there are so many of them out there. And I have seen, just like you were saying, I have seen a lot of guys who will crush it on Thumbtack, or they'll crush it on Angie's List, where maybe I didn't do as well on Angie's List, but in their market, they crush it there. So yeah, I'm glad you had mentioned that, because every market's going to be a little different. Yeah, test like we always say. So.
Amen, man. And just because one platform doesn't work doesn't mean paid directories doesn't work.
Right.
Like, I would recommend doing that 3 months, and I don't know, you might break even in that phase and you probably spent a good amount of time on it. Like, that's okay. The first few years of your business are meant to be, and whatever, even if you're really far into your business journey, this still applies. You should always be testing, really. So if Yelp didn't work, okay, let's try Thumbtack. Let's try this other platform. And again, really pull a consensus from the people in your area, the HVAC owners the plumbers the electricians what's working in the area, what's working for other pest control owners and then try that out.
That's great advice, Danny. Well, thank you for sharing the info. That's all the questions I have for this video, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I know that we really appreciate you guys taking the time with us here. If you guys have any questions, comments, make sure to throw them in the comment section below. And if you found this valuable, make sure to like and subscribe and to share with your friends who maybe own a service business themselves. Again, our goal here is to provide as much value to you guys as possible. Also, if you guys are really looking to grow your business, make sure to check out our website at pestcontrolmillionaires.com. We'll have the link below in the bio, and we'll also have a free school group for you guys to check out. So, thanks for watching.